Hey guys, my name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be filming my July wrap-up. In the month of July, I read a total of 15 books, which is the most books I have ever read in 1 month, so that's pretty cray-cray. It was a very long month, I feel like. As I said, in the month of July, I read a total of 15 books, which amounted to 5,143 pages. I had 2 books that I DNF'd this month, which was Six of Crows and Skyward, and these books were not included in my 15 books total, but they are included in my page count because I read 100 pages of both of these. So as far as my goals for the year go, I did complete my book of the month goal, and I actually read 2 of my book of the month selections for the month of July. And then as far as my reread goal goes, I did not get to my reread of It Ends With Us like I wanted to, but I did reread a book this month. So it wasn't the book that I thought it would be, but I did do a reread, so I don't know if that counts for my goal or not. So as for ratings this month, I had 4 5-star books this month, 5 4-star books this month, 0 3-star books this month, which I believe is a first, 5 2-star books, and 1 1-star book. Unfortunately, the ratings are on the lower end for the month. I think it's so strange that I had absolutely 0 3-star ratings this month. It's like I either loved what I was reading or I hated it. Like there was no in between. As far as genres go, I have 1 dystopian, 1 nonfiction, 1 fantasy, 4 thrillers, 3 romances, 2 adult contemporaries, and 3 young adult contemporaries. And then for male versus female authors, I have 5 male authors and 10 female authors. So this month I also did participate in the reading rush, and I participated in my own challenge this month of reading books outside of my comfort zone. So I can link down below the vlogs and videos for both of those things that I participated in this month, but that definitely contributed to how much I was able to read this month. So the very first book that I picked up this month was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This one is one of my book of the month picks for the month of July. This one is the latest new adult thriller from Riley Sager. He has 2 previous novels that I also read and also really enjoyed. This one follows this girl who moves into this apartment building in New York. She's getting paid to live in this apartment building, which is already kind of like sketchy and weird, and this building has a bunch of really rich people living in it, and it's known for being kind of cursed and haunted and just kind of creepy in general. This book is probably my new favorite from this author. I just loved it so much. Like this book was so creepy and so dark and so atmospheric, and this one honestly felt a little bit more horror actually than thriller, which I loved. It gave me chills. Like it definitely gives you that like someone is watching you vibe. And I feel like even though this book does have the standard typical cliche like girl gone missing trope in a thriller, and we spend a lot of this book trying to figure out what happened to this girl that went missing, I just thought it was all done so well, and the ending had such amazing writing and amazing plot twists, and I was just like, holy crap. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Like it was probably closer to a 4-star, but also it was just so great, and it's probably a 4.5 out of 5 for me. The second book I read this month was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this one is one that I listened to the audiobook for. This one is a young adult contemporary that follows this girl named Imani who had a baby her freshman year of high school. She has dreams of becoming a chef, and in this book she gets to enroll in this cooking class in her high school, and they're gonna get the opportunity to go to Spain. This is the same author as The Poet X, and I also really love The Poet X, and this book is really great as well. I think I actually like this one a little bit more than The Poet X though. The audiobooks for this author's books are so great because she narrates the audiobooks herself, and she just brings so much life and culture to her characters. I just think it's so refreshing to see young adult novels that are about such real things, and like the characters feel so real, and like her being put into all these horrible situations just because she's a teen mom. This book was just really good, and I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars as well. The third book I read this month was Tell Me How You Really Feel, and this one is a young adult female hate to love romance. So we have followed 2 girls in this book. First one is Sana, and she is this really absolutely gorgeous cheerleader, and she's also a very out of the closet lesbian, and she gets described in this book as a South Asian Elizabeth Taylor. And then we have Rachel, who's taking this film class at the moment, and she really wants to be a director and work in Hollywood. And so this book is about Rachel directing her first movie for her film class. The teacher requests that Sana plays the lead because of there's like a certain situation that happens right in the beginning where they have like an altercation, and then the teacher's like, oh, she would be perfect for the role, and he like requests that she picks Sana for the role in the movie. Oh my gosh, dude, this book was so fun. Their banter was so spot on, and this was definitely like a slow burn romance. And this is like the first really great female romance that I've read like ever, maybe, or at least in a very long time. I also love that this book takes place in Southern California and like in the Hollywood scene, kind of. I love that this book shows you the real Los Angeles, you know, not the like sugar-coated La La Land like Los Angeles that you see in the movies and stuff. Like, this book shows you the real Los Angeles with like the dirty streets, the Santa Ana winds, you know. Like, I'm from California, so I feel like this representation of Los Angeles was very important for me because I was just like, yes. And I just really love this book. I didn't have any issues with it at all, and I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so cute. Alright, the fourth book I read this month was The Nowhere by GILL, and this book was sent to me for review by the author and his team. This story follows this boy named Sebastian who's living out in the middle of nowhere in Australia on this farm, and he is gay, but he's closeted himself. Then one day, this other family moves into the farm closest to them, and they have this young boy named Jake who's like around his age. This story is kind of like a mystery / coming of age story about Sebastian. So the writing style was kind of strange in this book because it would jump around different timelines constantly. So like the main story is taking place in 1997 when Sebastian and Jake met, but then like there would be different chapters jumping around to like 2017, 2005, like, and even before 1997. Jake is one of my least favorite characters of all time. He's just such an asshole, and he has like no redeeming qualities, and he just bullies and peer pressures Sebastian in like 99% of this book. I feel like the ending of this book especially just ruined it for me, so I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. The fifth book that I read this month was Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, and this was the first book that I read for the Reading Books Outside of My Comfort Zone video. This one is a literary courtroom thriller drama. It follows this immigrant family, and it follows this mother of an 8-year-old autistic son who's getting accused of murdering him. In this story, we follow Pak and Young, who are immigrants from Korea, and they're running this business called Miracle Submarine, where these people who have disabilities can come and be cured. This 8-year-old boy named Henry is in the Miracle Submarine when a fire begins, and he gets killed in the fire. And they have reason to believe that Henry's mother is the one who started the fire and that she was planning on killing him the whole time. I feel like this story touches on a lot of very human things, like how one mistake can really screw up the lives of everyone around us, how hard it can be to be an immigrant in America and never really truly feel welcomed or at home, and how challenging it can be to raise a child that has disabilities. This book did remind me of a lot of my other favorite books of all time, like Little Fires Everywhere, because of the whole like fire and the immigrant situation and just the prose in the story, like the literary feel to it. My god, this book was written so beautifully. I did end up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Like, I really loved it. The only reason why I didn't get a 5 from me is because I feel like some of this book was a little bit slower, and I felt like there were some chunks that could have been taken out. Oh my god, like, don't skip this one. It's so good, it's so important, and it's just so gorgeously written. Like, I will definitely be checking out everything this author writes in the future. Alright, the 6th book that I read this month is EVVIE Drake Starts Over by Linda Holmes. This one was sent to me by Penguin Random House, so thank you so much for a copy. This one is like an adult contemporary romance novel. It follows this girl EVVIE who her husband has recently died, and she's really best friends with this guy named Andy, and their relationship is like 100% platonic, which I really appreciate seeing, like an adult female-male friendship that's 100% platonic. So Andy has this best friend Dean, who is a retired baseball player who's looking for a new place to live because he wants to get out of the media storm. So this book takes place in Maine, and so it's about Dean moving into her extra guest house because she And since her husband just died, she has all this extra space at her house, and so she thinks like she'll just make some money by renting out the extra room. And so it's about Dean moving into her house and them kind of forming a romantic relationship. This book was so cute. It honestly gave me like Rainbow Rowell vibes or like Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine vibes. And I feel like EVVIE is such a relatable main character for me. I feel like her best friend Andy is my favorite character in this book. He has 2 young daughters and he's a single dad, and he's so freaking funny. Like, his sense of humor was cracking me up. Yeah, I just thought this book was a whole bundle of cuteness, and I loved that it had a Major League Baseball player as one of the main characters because I just love baseball players, so that was great. And I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. The 7th book that I read this month was Scythe by Neal Shusterman, and this is one of the books I also read for the Reading Books Outside of My Comfort Zone video that I did. This one is a young adult dystopian sci-fi fantasy novel that I had no idea that I would absolutely love this book. I am incredibly shocked and surprised that I love this book as much as I did because I'm not a huge reader of dystopians, and especially like young adult dystopians just aren't really my thing, like, at all. This book was incredible. It was fascinating. It was so cool. So this story takes place in the way, way, way future where we have conquered death. Like, humans are now immortal, but we've run into the problem of overpopulation. These people called Scythes are basically assassins, and they have to go out there and randomly choose people to kill so that they can control the overpopulation problem. And so this book follows these 2 young adults who are going to be training under Scythe Faraday to become the next Scythe. This book was just so fascinating. I just love the moral situations that these characters get put into, and I love that like halfway through this book it starts to feel like almost like a mystery thriller because there's just so many plot twists happening and freaking fascinating. Like, I just love this world so much, and I can't wait to read the sequel. Like, I already bought the sequel, it's in my possession, and it's probably going to be the first thing I read in August. I love this so much. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, and it's probably my favorite book that I read this month. So 8th book that I read this month was Twice in a Blue Moon by CHRISTINA Lauren. Thank you so much to Gallery Books for an advanced copy of this. Freaking lost my shit when I got this in the mail because I was not expecting to get this, and this is one of my most anticipated books of the year. It follows this actress, and it's about her like reconnecting with her first love. I feel like this book should have been right up my alley because I love books that are about films or actors or movie sets and whatever, because I love movies. Like, I'm a huge fan of movies. But unfortunately with this one, I just could not connect with these characters at all. This book actually reminded me a lot of the only other CHRISTINA Lauren book that I haven't really enjoyed, and that's Love in Other Words. Something too that irked me about this is that this book starts with our 2 main characters, Sam and Tate, when they're both 18 and meeting when they're on this vacation to London. The first 120 pages of this book is them being 18, and it's like about their first love story, and we don't even get to the part where she's like this huge successful famous actress until like almost halfway through the book. I think I was just like annoyed because I was expecting to read an adult romance, and like literally the first 120 pages were like a young adult cheesy insta-love romance. Even once we got to the point where they were older, like, I just did not care about either of the characters. I didn't care about her complicated relationship with her super famous dad. And I think I realized something too about my reading taste is that I really don't enjoy books about first loves reconnecting when they're adults. Like, unless it's The Notebook, I don't care. I don't know, so I'm kind of disappointed because I thought I would love this one because of the whole actress thing, but I just ended up being pretty disappointed by it because I could not connect with these characters for the life of me. So I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Alright, so the 9th book that I read this month was A Stranger on the Beach by Michele Campbell, and this one is an adult thriller. I got sent this from Booksparks for their book fest thing that they're doing this summer, so thank you so much to them. This one is a thriller that honestly does not bring anything new to the table. Like, this is your standard thriller right here. So this one follows this girl who finds out that her husband has been lying to her for a very long time, and then she sees this guy that's like a stranger on her beach, and she befriends him and gets to know him, and you could predict where this goes next. I'm sure you could, because you're probably right. Moral of the story is don't trust strangers that you don't know. This was a 2 out of 5 for me. It was not very great. Alright, the 10th book I read this month was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and this was the first book that I read for the reading rush, and this was my reread of the month. I have read A Monster Calls. It's been a couple of years though, but I wanted to reread this so I can watch the movie adaptation. But did I do that? No. This book is dark and it's sad and it's damn beautiful and it makes me cry every time. And here's one of my favorite quotes from the book. It says, "There is not always a good guy, nor is there always a bad one. Most people are somewhere in between." Once again, an easy 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my favorite books ever, and the freaking imagery in this book is goddamn beautiful. Like, so many of these visual like images are just so stunning and so haunting, and it's such an easy read because it's like half graphic novel and then half novel, but like, oh my god, this is one of the most beautiful books ever. The 11th book I read this month was We Should All Be Feminists. This is the second book I read for the reading rush, and I listened to the audiobook for this one, and it was super short and super sweet, and it was freaking phenomenal and so important. Let me just read you 2 quotes from this book that I think are so important and really hit home for me. So it says, "My own definition of a feminist is a man or a woman who says, yes, there is a problem with gender as it is today and we must fix it. We must do better. All of us, women and men, must do better." And then the next one is when she says, "We teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful. Otherwise, you would threaten the man. Because I am a female, I am expected to aspire to marriage. I am expected to make my life choices, always keeping in mind that marriage is the most important. Now, marriage can be a source of joy and love and mutual support, but why do we teach girls to aspire to marriage and we don't teach boys the same? We raise girls to see each other as competitors, not for jobs or accomplishments, which I think can be a good thing, but for the attention of men. We teach girls that they cannot be sexual beings in the way that boys are." I think it's safe to say this book was an easy 5 out of 5 for me. It's just a really, really great, empowering feminist read, and I loved it. 12th book that I read this month was Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey, and this was the 3rd book that I read for the reading rush. This story is a romance novel. It started off very promising because their banter was real cute and it was great. This story is one that I feel like I should have loved because it has a lot of my favorite things in here, like a retired baseball player, another one with a Major League Baseball player, and it has this fake dating trope, but it also has a trope that I realize I don't really like in romance novels, and that is when this person has this childhood crush on the other person, and then when they're adults, they finally like get together and they're like, I've been in love with you since I was a kid. I don't know why, I just never like books like that when it comes to romance novels. I always get like irritated. I think my main issue with this book was Travis Ford, which is her love interest. He is just freaking obnoxious as hell, and he's so cocky to the point where it's like really annoying and kind of gross. And the way he keeps referring to her as like, she's like my little sister, but then he's like sexualizing her, it's like really disgusting. Like there's a scene when they're gonna have sex and he's like, get ready to meet your god. Like about his dick, like gross. Oh my god, the amount of times he calls her baby girl in this book, like ugh, vomit. Like I honestly just don't really get the hype around this book because there's no, like, once they get together, it's literally just sex scene after sex scene after sex scene, and like that's all the story is. Oh my god, Travis Ford just annoyed me so bad, so I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Alright, the 13th book I read this month was The Flatshare by Jojo Moyes. Beth O'Leary. This one is the 4th book that I read for the reading rush, and this one is a contemporary romance novel that's about this girl named Tiffy and this guy named Leon. So this girl Tiffy, her boyfriend breaks up with her, and so she's looking for a new place to live. The weird thing is that they're going to be sharing a bed and they've never met, okay, because Leon works these weird hours because he's like a nurse. So he works from like 6 o'clock at night until like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then she has a standard like 9 to 5 job. So they're gonna be rotating and they're never gonna like meet each other, but they're gonna be sharing the same apartment and bed. And the premise is what made me want to read this because I was like, what the heck? Like, how could you ever share a bed with a stranger? And yeah, this book was, it was very boring in my opinion. Leon's chapters are written in such a very strange way. Like there's no quotes around the dialogue in his sections, and I honestly didn't understand the purpose of the reason why his chapters are written in such a weird and different way than Tiffy's. It was very jarring to go back and forth between like Tiffy's regular point of view chapters and then his. I feel like these two main characters spend the first half of this book just bitching about their exes and complaining about their exes and talking about their exes. So annoying. Like, I was getting very frustrated with them. I feel like this definitely read like a JoJo Moyes novel. Like, was this ghost written by JoJo Moyes? This is like another one of those novels right now that's being super hyped, and I just expected that I would love it because of that, but I was so bored by this and the main characters drove me fucking nuts. So I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars as well. Ugh. The 14th book that I read this month is Things You Save in a Fire by Katherine Center. This is another one of my July Book of the Month picks, and this was the 5th and final book that I read for the reading rush. The story follows Cassie, who's a female firefighter who's working in Texas. Her mom, who lives in Boston, asked her to move to Boston with her for a year because of this medical issue that she's having. So now she's gonna move to Boston for a year to help out her mom, and she gets a new job at this fire station in Boston. All the men at this new fire station are very sexist, and they believe that women don't have a place in the fire station. I really love that Cassie is a badass bitch firefighter, and she's so tough, and it's just so refreshing to see a woman in a job position like this, and I love seeing it normalized like this. Also, the romance was very cute in this book. This book is about like how she starts to form a romance with the rookie at the fire station because he's the only one who fucking respects her. And another positive is that I felt really emotionally attached to Cassie's family situation with her mom. As far as the negatives go for this book, like, it just really irked me that the guys at the station were so sexist to her and that she kept having to prove herself over and over and over again, and it's like, dude, she doesn't have to prove anything to you. The second thing is that the romance felt a little bit insta-lovey at times for me. Like, it was a little cheesy. From like the beginning, she was like, I don't even believe in love. Love is like a waste of time. And then as soon as she saw him, she's like, holy fuck, my world like stopped spinning. Like, what is air? You know, like that kind of thing. And it was like, okay, like that's annoying. It was a very Nicholas Sparks formula ending, if you know what I mean. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like, I did really enjoy it, but it wasn't my favorite thing, and the ending definitely got too predictable for me and too sappy. And the 15th book that I read this month was Supermarket by Bobby Hall, aka Logic. And I listened to this audiobook for this, and I actually DNF'd it after 50% of the way through, but I'm still counting it because I read this hot garbage and I deserve to rate this. I ended up giving this book 1 star. Like, this is my only 1 star this month, and one of the few 1-star books that I've given this year because this book is such a joke. I feel like this book only got published because it's written by Logic, who's like this huge famous rapper, so they were like, yeah, let's just go with it. Publish his book. Oh my gosh, dude, the main character in this book is obnoxious as hell. Like, he thinks he's so clever because he's like breaking the 4th wall with the reader, and he's like, hey reader, bet you didn't see this coming. Like, I've never read a book before that like calls out the reader and like breaking the 4th wall. Like, I feel like it works okay in movies, like it works well in movies, but in books it's so weird. It doesn't work for me in books, I think. Or at least not in the way that they were doing it. And the main character is such an asshole. Like, some of the comments that he made about the black characters in this book just really rubbed me the wrong way. He thinks, like, as soon as he sees this girl Rhonda, he's like, oh, like thinking to himself, like, she's like the stereotypical like angry black woman. He feels bad because he's like, oh, like maybe that's kind of prejudice because maybe she's not like that. And then she says one comment that kind of sounds like angry towards him, and he's like, see, I'm not prejudiced because she fits the stereotype. That's not how it works, okay? And then he goes and makes this comment about the same girl, and he's like, oh my god, she's so dark. And then he spends like the next 2 minutes being like, oh my god, I was talking about her personality and not her skin color. It was just so bad. The writing itself was so terrible. Like, it read like a freaking 5th grader wrote this book. Even a 5th grader could write a better book, probably. Like, he doesn't know how to compose a complex sentence. Like, I ended up giving it 1 star, and I DNF'd it because this book would have given me a freaking migraine if I finished it. So those are all the books that I read in July. That's so crazy, dude. Like, this was my best reading month of all time. Like, number-wise, like 15 books in 1 month, like that's insanity. And it's honestly thanks to the reading rush / booktubeathon. Like, every year that I participate in the booktubeathon, I end up reading a lot more than I typically do. That's just so awesome that I finally like beat my own record for myself. Like 15 books in 1 month is like completing a book every other day for the month. I think the reason why I was able to read so much this month is because the first 4 days of this month I read a book every single day, which is rare. Like that never happens. And then on top of that, I participated in a readathon. That is all for now. So let me know, how many books did you read in the month of July? What was the best book that you read this month? What was the worst book that you read this month? I think for me, my favorite thing that I read this month is Scythe, and I cannot wait to read the sequel first thing next month. Like that'll be the next book that I'm picking up. But yeah, let me know what your favorites were, and let me know your thoughts on any of these books that I read this month, and if you agree or disagree, we can just chat about it in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you guys soon with a new video.